Hold on. Yeah, no, I think we're on now, Ak. You should be able to hear me, right?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you well.
Yeah, awesome.
All right. Well, shalom, everybody. My name is, or what I go by is Brother or Akmatiyahu. Um, I am a beloved brother of my guy, brother Omar, out there in Jamaica. I'm in the States, and I've been wanting to try to get on for a little bit, brother. Oh, I see you've been holding it down and making it happen. And there's a couple things. Well, let me know how the format of your show ends up going, because I don't want to kind of come in and do things that I
Yeah,
don't
you
know.
know, let you have a praise, man. Yeah, I mean, let you have a praise. I mean, it's just generally, you know, generally it's really Shabbat talk. Just before the sun sets.
Right,
Generally this time, just Shabbat talk, matters concerning the heart, matters concerning scriptures, the most high, yeah. In line is how we live our lives, daily, things that impact us and trying to align ourselves back with the most high according to his righteousness
right,
and his word. So basically, coming to chat about any topic concerning Abaya and his righteousness, any topic
right.
scripturally, not being too timid by whatever topic it is. You face it, let's face it up front and let's discuss it and let's see what the word says about it and how we can shape our lives in the righteousness of Abaya light, so his light can shine upon us. So that's
Of
always the
course.
basis of how we, how I'm setting the tone, not to be, no, you know, it's not a platform, to be over no brother, to be, big brother or elder over no brother, but more or less just to share and to chat about things scripturally, what
Right.
scripture, what things mean scripturally, understanding scripture by scriptures, and just chatting of matters concerning the art and what Yah says, because always about the most High, yeah, and to reconnect to that spiritual umbilical cord back to Abba, Yah, so we can live a righteous life and eat, you know, healthier and whatever it is that Yah gives us here, even on the homestead, that we are able to do in accordance with even the brethren that we fellowship with. So let Yah have a praise in all things, because we serve Him and we serve none other. So I just a quick topic there. I was had something earlier, but I
Hmm.
started to froze a bit. I started to froze a bit,
Yeah.
and sometimes even though you know I may like wanted to chat on the Shabbat at this time. If the rock is not convicting me to say, hey, let's go out and fellowship, then I might just chill. You know, I'm not
Okay.
trying to let him be churchy type that every Sunday is church. You know what I'm saying? It's more or less
Right.
that,
Right.
hey, if
Right.
I have a good word, if I have something to really chat about, I'll just try to do it on this time. You know, um, but let you have a praise. I mean, it's always good, you know, where brethren can come together in unity and reason, you know,
Right. So,
because
go ahead.
I just posted up family and marriages, because something
Mhm.
I've chatted about already. So that's one thing. I just put that up. We can chew on that. You know, and it's always about biblically, scripturally. It's not really about man definition, really. It's always about scripturally when you talk about these things, right? So yeah, what you're saying, you're saying something, Mark. You're frozen. Yeah, I think we lost you there, brother Matt. See if we can hop back in. See if we can get back in. Because sometimes the connectivity is an issue. Yeah, I think I got you back there, bro.
All right. Okay.
Oh yeah, I lost you again, man. Your connectivity must be wild down, man. Yeah, so while I wait on brother Matt, let me continue the conversation. Yes, you know, yeah, it's another Shabbat talk, family and marriages. It's also about biblically, who is family biblically, and what is marriage biblically. It's very interesting because there have been much word about family and marriage, right? There have been much and there have been much understanding, there have been more comments about these things. And we like to go to scripture for our understanding of the word. Because Yah has created marriage. He's the one who created marriage. The first marriage was he created it. He set up between Adam and Eva. He's the one who did that, right? So we trust the Most High righteous way of union, and we know, the scriptures show us what's constituted marriage. Yeah, created man, he brought the woman to him, created the woman and brought the woman to him, and she became his wife. So,
Okay.
she became his wife. Yeah. So you're back. What's going on down there, man?
Man, I think I'm having a little bit of internet issues, and then also I think I was having some difficulty actually navigating inside of StreamYard. So I might be pressing, back on my phone normally, and it's not minimizing. And then I also had like StreamYard was just saying that your microphone and your camera is not allowed. So it's just some distractions. So I think that this is going to be a good live, because with all this distraction and feelings and things like that, I think that this is going to be a good live. You got to press through. Anyways.
Yeah, we always, I mean, we always fellowship and have a good chat, brother. You know it is.
Yeah.
It's it's nice to actually see face to face live on cam because we haven't. I think we have never done this before near you, right?
No,
And
we were talking
just
about it
started
though.
getting. Yeah, we started getting in front of the camera. As you have been talking about getting in front of the camera, I don't necessarily have. And I started getting in front of the camera when there was no one watching because I'm like, oh, cool, there's no one watching, so it's cool to be not be in front of the camera. But then people
Right.
start to watch. You know what I'm saying?
That's
Then there
true.
started being viewership and stuff. I'm like, okay, but let you have a praise. Family and marriages. It's the art of life. It's what is it's what things are about between creation. You know, yeah, Yah created these things from early. Yah created marriages, and it's always important for us to get some understanding of what it is, and it's always scriptural. You know,
Right.
yeah. Look behind me, man. The hills are alive, man. You see the mountains behind me. Let you have a praise,
I
man.
see that, man. I
This is
see
our
that.
homestead in the mountain, man. You know,
I
yeah,
see that, bruh.
let you have a praise. So I mean, it's always a biblical thing. It's always scripturally guided when we take marriages. I know there has been some conversation. There have been conversation. There's one brother that made a post. I commented on this post,
Hmm.
um,
Right.
and about marriage and getting a marriage certificate
Right.
and get a marriage certificate, and should the sisters be getting a marriage
I'm still here.
certificate?
Right.
Yeah. Um, you got on dark screen on me, man.
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm still here. Keep going.
Yeah, man, you're gonna join me live, man. I need to see you, man. But,
You got it, man. But should they get a
yeah,
marriage certificate? Should like a marriage certificate from
yeah.
the state or like a ketubah,
I don't.
an elder in the community?
It wasn't. He was talking about the marriage certificate, right? And
Right on.
that's one of the things about getting the marriage certificate thing. It's not just the brother alone talking about it, but biblically now it's been tied into scripturally. How is it founded scripturally, like marriage certificate and all things? And I made a comment on his channel and stuff, and being respectful, obviously. uh, you know and we had a few communication back and forth about a couple of things, and you know but in the short form of it is, family and marriages, it has to be scripturally founded. It has to be scripturally founded. Most marriages today that we see is not scripturally founded, even though it's on the basis and the synopsis of scripture, because man and woman come together.
Right.
But one of the things that when I listen and I reading scriptures and I see where a man says, when I hear comments like, what, yeah, say get a certificate of divorce, so there must be a certificate of marriage.
Right. Right. I
I'm
mean,
not,
go ahead.
yeah, I'm not necessarily fully into that construct because the scripture hasn't shown me that fully. That hasn't shown me that none at all, to be candid. But I can understand where a person may be coming from, but it's just that, our patriarchs never had any overseer or any marriage officer over their wedding.
All right. So this is what I've come to understand, right, guys? So, and I'm just talking to the audience who might be on. I can't see if people are on, but I don't want to isolate. It just seem like it's just a conversation that we're having. I want to invite everybody.
Anything we're
So,
doing has to be fully that's good for the ears of people as well, righteously, rightfully
right on,
dividing the
right
word.
on. So, what I understand, right, like because we're doing our best to follow a culture and to follow a faith, right? Israelites who have been, it's been about 2,000 years, a little underneath 2,000 years from being kicked out of Israel. So I always look at surrounding areas and maybe even in history how other people were doing things, because the thing about the scriptures is that it's such it's covering thousands and thousands and thousands of years in a book, right? So it's not going to have every single fine line and print in there, and so we're not able to say, well, what were they doing, and look, boom, right there, chapter this, that, and the other, so on and so forth. Not every single time, but so what was going on was is that people had communities, and when you got married, because even now in certain African communities, people will get married and you have the weight or the reputation of yourself and your family and all of the whole community holding that thing down. Whereas we're in the West, it's very individualistic. People can run off, go get eloped, go get a piece of paper somewhere, get married in the night and, in the States in Las Vegas, and then that's it. So I know that we don't need to have marriage certificates according to the state, because that's not, oh, there was a car. A brother told me this, or a gentleman, but I don't think he's like, practicing. He's an Israelite. He understands that consciousness. But he said, listen, when you get married, you got 19 new laws in the US, 19 new laws that go along with you and that woman or that man or whoever like that getting married, when you get married to the state. When I would love to see brothers and sisters go out, make a commitment to each other, and say, hey, listen, we're going to be married and we're going to operate all the way down the line. But the whole thing is that you've got a few brothers and sisters, or you got a few brothers. Let me just talk to the brothers. You got a few brothers who are going to be upright with these ladies, right? It's men. You got a few brothers who's going to be upright with these ladies, and there's no community to hold that brother accountable. You cannot just get up and walk out. I think about in a movie, I think it was like Goodfellas or something like that, Goodfellas or some Italian movie. And the guy, the main character, he's like in the mafia or whatever like that. The main character is like, I'm done with my wife, and he tries to go to his friends or whatever who are in the mob, and he's like, I'm done with my wife, and they're listening to him, they're reasoning with him, and they're like, man, you can have a Goomba, you can have a girlfriend, but you need to go home. You have to go home. And I always remember that, because that community, negative community, but inside of their culture, it was like, you don't get a divorce from your wife. Inside of their culture, you can have your girlfriend on the side or whatever like that, but you do not break up your household and your family, excuse me, with divorce. And we don't have such a community anymore. I'm talking about the majority, like the descendants of slaves, in these Americas, Caribbean included. We don't have that. So how do we ensure that men, because, brother, we can both have daughters. And I think that that's where it hits home, is that when we have daughters, well, we want our daughters to be married, but how do we know that man is going to be an upright man? And what are the consequences? I mean, I think that every single place has laws. Every place has laws that we have the, I guess, reverence for, or the understanding that if we go against this law, there's going to be some serious repercussions. And that's why people don't break the law. But inside of this new Hebrew understanding, where it's like, look, we Hebrew and things like that, I've seen that happen. I've seen women, younger women, saying, having an older brother or a more conniving brother, talking about he's Hebrew, he's Israelite, and then taking them away from their household, getting them, I got people out here, but, having like, the dude's like, oh, we're married. This is all online. Oh, we're married. So you can now send me, now we can have, sexual texts and things like that because we married. Is that wrong or is that correct? Can you be married or can you not be married? Just by saying, hey, listen, we're married. It would be great. I don't see a personal problem with it, but I do see that people will take advantage of that. And that's the only thing that I think is the biggest problem. Why men seem like they need, I'm not saying that I agree with it, but why men seem like they need to go through the courts, and because it's a level of accountability that for some reason we're just not holding on ourselves at this moment, right? So how do we change that? Let's talk about that. How do we, we're just into the truth. We're like, okay, we're into the truth. Everybody sees that these communities are extremely fragmented. We don't want to join a camp. because the camp doctrines are, you know, they're kind of wild. You know, I mean, I haven't seen a camp yet that hasn't kind of created its own little bylaws and things that don't necessarily, to me, line up with the scripture. But at the same token, if you got a camp and you get married, then there we go. There we go with those, that social, it's almost like a social pressure. You know, you've got people who are around you to say, listen, you need to treat that husband right, or listen, you need to treat that that wife right. And so when we don't have that, yeah, let me know what you think.
For me, you know, is as I said, you know, when you're in sales, and I reference this a few times, there has to be a foundation to go back to, and
Right.
using word market and like, you know, using a kind of thing like a sales rep, a salesman,
Right.
and from my own experience, going out there selling, struggling, making errors, making junior sales rep mistakes, and making errors to make a sale because you're rushing to make the sales. When you find out your error, your ways, you'll be like, okay, where did this start? What the origin of sales? What is the sales process? What is the beginning?
Right.
Then I have to go back to the beginning of sales to refresh myself and restart again, and then start building skills. It is a definitive way how you approach sales, and you will be successful once you follow the protocols and follow it right. Follow it right. What do we fall back into marriages? I mean, is it the community, or is it most based on what you are showing us in his set apart scriptures? Because we see Abraham, we start from I'm using the patriarchs. Abraham, I don't really just say Abraham cheat your woman well. We see Isaac, we see Jacob. And one thing was even profound about, you talk about finding righteous men to teach your daughters well. I mean, that is the ideal where we want to get to back with others, because it starts with us. And
right.
At the end of it, when I read the book of Bereshit in Genesis, it says Abraham gives his concubine gifts and send them away. This is a man who knew he was of age, he was getting older, he wanted nothing to confuse his inheritance, Isaac. So he sent them away with gifts and gave them because he had plenty. You know, that's a righteous man. You know, and these are areas where we say, because, you know, people talk about one wife, two wives, whatever, no wife, right? But then not have one or three. If you're not righteous, one will not be. You're going to have a chaotic relationship and working in righteousness and to provide. So, but I can understand from the perspective where a person may say, get a marriage certificate.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I mean, something, I can see that. Hold on, Brother Omar. Sister Kimmy said, is the comments working? Because I'm not on YouTube, so I can't see. But she's like, is the comments live, or is that a function? Okay. Okay, I guess maybe just type something in the comments. Yeah, because I don't want to leave this chat.
Yeah.
This says it says that's the private chat. Oh, okay. StreamYard let viewers. Oh, okay. It says on YouTube. It says, "Hey, shalom."
Yeah. It was on the private chat section between me and you, because I think you initially the private chat. I was sending privately. Yeah.
I don't know how to. I gotta look this stuff up.
I just changed it because I was seeing.
Okay, right, because I can't see anything. I guess I can't see any chats in here. Okay, now I can see comments and chats. Okay. Hey there, Kimmy. Okay, so Kimmy hopped on. All right, so going back to what you're saying, you can see why it's necessary to have something. Right.
Yeah, I mean, I can resonate with the brother and the sisters and whoever feel like, because, you know, as a man who has a daughter, that okay, get something, because I guess there's a factor where a person might look at it and say, hey, I can't trust these brothers fully. I don't, you know, they may come with, you know, wolf in sheep clothing to pretend to take your daughter and try to show all the righteousness. But you know what? I trust the Most High that He will show
Right.
and understand the thing. Because once I believe, because it has happened in my life that once you test the rock by the rock and dot all your eyes and go through what the Most High prescribed, then you will find out if a person is sheep in wolf clothing. But I
Right.
was talking to my Isha about this marriage thing once, and I was like, you know what? One thing that I am not into or liking based on what scripture has guided me to is to have a marriage officer, right? To
Okay.
solemnize your marriage, because that means you take it solemnly from the Most High, yeah, and you are stumbled because scripture hasn't shown anywhere that man has performed a marriage ceremony. However,
Hmm.
um, I was talking to him. I was like, if there's, I haven't checked it out. I probably need to look into it. If there's a situation where you can just say, because government is just care about their monies, and if there's a
Right.
situation where you can just say, okay, I'm going to pay just to sign a marriage certificate to show that we are married. And while she currently say, oh, we're still under the situation, hold on. But
Yeah.
not to solemnize a marriage through no man say, I pronounce you. I think we would stumble if we do that because it's not scripturally founded. But in a sense where a person may say, hey, I need to have something to show that this man won't just run off, leave me with the 5 children and just go about his business and all his monies and whatever. And it's just a conversation we're having. I haven't checked out anything, I haven't really looked at anything because it has to be founded to me of the way of the Most High. And are our men return enough from the post-traumatic slavery and all the oppression that we have been on and all the indoctrination to say they can truly be righteous to take care of the sisters? Well, but I'm seeing
Yeah.
examples of it out there. I'm seeing examples of it out there. So it do exist. Because a man
You
like
you
yourself,
are seeing examples.
yeah, we are seeing examples out there with men with more than one wives, right? So
Oh, right. Yeah.
yeah, to show that a man is still maintaining his honorability to the Most High to do what is right by his ladies and by his women in his
Right.
life without the necessary say of the marriage certificate or a man pronounce them man and wife, because a
Yeah.
man should know
Yeah.
responsibility to the Most High and to who he has given in his life, his woman and his children, and know that
Right.
this is a big responsibility for men who has wives and children, because these are lives that have placed into you by the Most High to
Now,
take care of and grow them up properly, right?
now to that point, not to just interject a point. So what it is that you're saying is that just talking about a man's duty, I guess, right? A man's responsibility or honor seems like it's based on how much he values, following, I guess, the scriptures or following, whatever his faith and his culture tell him to do, and that's the big thing. Because you said it earlier, you were like a man in sales or a salesman. He's doing sales and then, not isn't having the level of success. And so what's happening is that salesperson is dedicated to figuring things out, getting better, right? How often is the husband dedicated to getting things better? And I'm talking about the majority of us, brother, were raised in households without our mother and father. I was one of those people. You're definitely a blessed brother because, you grew up with your mother and father in the house, but a great portion of us grew up in single parent households, with just our mom. So when we're trying to embark on something like a marriage, it's difficult. We got all these social norms, all these social things that we got to say, oh, well, how did that brother do it? Or what did I learn on television? There almost seems like, what I'm saying is that who's to say that successful salesperson is like, I want to get better. Why? So I can make more money. Right. But we're not in the culture that says, I want to get better in my relationship. I want to get better in my marriage as a man. So I'm going to go ahead and study how to get better. Right. We're not in that. It's like, just do what I say.
I mean, and I tend to, I can't say I would have fully agree with that last comment about we are not, because as I mentioned earlier, we are seeing examples of brothers, even like yourself, who are trying to learn this way, because it's not going to be a majority of our brothers, to be candid.
Right.
So for the few and the minor few examples that we're seeing on the brothers that are there, and that's why you hear women say, most good men are taken or whatever. You hear women say those things because they recognize that when they see a man that have good stock to be a covering for them, they may look around and say, boy, this man has his Isha with him already, but not know the construct of the scriptures that a man can have multiple women. But in the way that they were brought up, okay, crap, so what do I do? But we have seen an example of men trying to do right and trying to restore themselves and trying to adjust themselves back to the way of the Most High as it relates to family and marriages, so they can become that father and that husband to that household, with that spiritual and biblical cord tied to the foundation of the Most High. Yeah. So if you stumble, if you have issues in your household, if you have issues in the marriages with the children, then you know the foundation where to go back to. What does Yah say?
Right.
Is it foundation? Sometimes we as men, we may even go off from time to time, but falling back to say, where's my foundation? Where do I go back for learning? Go back to Yah. What does his teaching teach us? What does his patriarch Abraham, Ishaq, Jacob taught us? What do we have seen here? So we can say, okay, I need to readjust myself and come back again. But, so that is basically what I see is a foundation of our families and marriages. And we have seen examples of men doing it. It's not necessarily going to be a great lot, but there will be the remnant that is doing it. So sisters, obviously, who possibly may thinking of, say what, may not even have a two parents household, maybe even out there leaving their household, living by themselves, and considering that they need a covering or need to be married and stuff, where do they find a good stuff? But it is very important for them to understand what it's a whole culture change of what been, because as you have mentioned before in our previous conversation, whether we like it or not, all of us has been impacted by this Western culture. No matter how we are come out, but we have been impacted. It's in some shape or form. We still resonate some because we don't really know our old path because we weren't really living it. We're trying to get back to as close as possible, but we really don't know the path that our father, because we weren't into that type of community and that type of culture. So we're trying to learn, but we are seeing examples of brothers, trying to do the right thing by their family according to where the Most High, scripturally found. A man, in my view, according to scriptures, not in my opinion, but what scriptures show me, doesn't need to have any marriage certificate. I know I don't need it because I know the type of man I am. And I know the type of man that I'm seeking the Most High to be and to become.
Right.
I don't necessarily need a marriage certificate because I know my responsibilities. Because, I don't need a man to tell me or the state to tell me to take care of my children and to love my wife as Yeshua loved the assembly and laid down his life for it. But I also need my Isha to be that submissive and that understanding that the role tells her what to do to submit to her husband in all things. You know what I'm saying? So I don't need no marriage certificate to tell me that such and such, right?
But I think that's you. I think that you just said it. You have a desire to be successful, and I think that that's what it is. You have a desire to be successful, but and then I guess that's the case for multiple wives and polygyny and things like that, is because there's so many guys who are not desiring living righteously. Maybe that's where you're headed towards, right?
Yeah, in some sense. I mean, it's not necessarily say their desire, but it's just like they're just reprobate mind, a lot of them, and being that they are what they are, it's giving them over to that reprobate mind. So, for us and for men who are seeking the way of the Most High, man, whether you have, I was just saying to the family today that, Shaul never had any wife, not as what you see in scripture. And and he had a big responsibility on his shoulder, man. When and if a man decide to not to get married, or I'm not gonna get married, I'm just gonna stay a eunuch, right? Then let him stay a eunuch. But when you decide, say, I'm gonna take a woman, man, that life has been given into your hand. And I was reading in the book of Matityahu, where Yeshua not Matityahu, sorry, my apologies, John 17. When Yeshua was in the rock and in prayer, And he was saying to the Most High, the Most High has given him 12, and he has not lost any, except the son of perdition. When you have lives responsible for as us men, it's not an easy task. It's a big responsibility, and we cannot take it lightly, because we don't want to lose any that he has given into our hands, to say, be the chief servant of these people, serve them well, right? Lead from the front. Yeshua says, my sheep hear my voice, and when I call them, they hear and they know me and they follow me. So Yeshua don't need to be behind none of us with no big stick over it, and we don't need to be behind our family with no guns or no buttons or no nothing. We need to know that they see and they say, this is a good stock. This is a resemblance of a man in the Most High. I need to follow him. If I need to respect what he's saying and understand where it's going and all these things, because and that's where the restoration of our men need to start to look at closely, because we have all other issues. We have all other issues, and I tell you, man, let me tell you, it is a big task when I look at my wife and my children around me, and I'm like, man, I have to do good by account to the Most High for these beings. He has given them unto me to say, take care of them until I come. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm like, and I don't take that responsibility lightly. I really don't take it lightly, because I mean, Yeshua said it in no sense. He has given him 12, and he has not lost any. Only the son of perdition, the scriptures might be filled. So for us, and we have to try to be men as of other age. Right? Be but men. So when we have lost our way, as we have now, through slavery, through scattering through disobedience, and we get scattered, how do we find back our way? We are in a wilderness, we are lost. How do we find our way? We go back to our history, our past. We go back to what Yah says and try to trace back our steps back to righteousness, so we can get connected back to the Most High, so we can shine some light back upon us and our household and our families. So when my daughter and my son, Yah willing, is of that age, which my daughter is, but my son, so to speak, and we need to give them into marriage, or they take a woman into marriage, we can know that, hey, my brother in the States or wherever, and we can communicate, because we want our children not to out there with men of reprobate mind or women of reprobate.
Right, and that's what I think that it's getting back to it, is there has to be some, like, there just has to almost kind of be some sort of, like, without it getting too churchy, but like a council, because that's what I'm saying, is that all these, let's again just take, like, many African countries and things like that, where people haven't become super duper Western, right? Because the Western ideology and mentality is really, really, really strong. Let's just talk about that, right? It's really strong, and right now it's not even colonialism, or it's just like maybe imperialism, but to the point of, like, don't you want to have this and don't you want to have that? They're not even going in anywhere and forcing anybody now. They're just showing you through the media, oh, look how great it is to take advantage of, I guess, Western cultures and things like that. So, but there has to be some sort of community, that because young people don't necessarily always know how to do it. Like, how they don't always know how to do it. And I mean, but even for us, we're in our later 30s and 40s and mid 40s or early 40s or whatever. And, but we have to have an example. And that's what I'm saying is our children are going to look at us. Because I was just listening to a message today talking about inheritance, right? and we could have talked about this too, but I like this subject. But again, talking about inheritance, a righteous man leaves inheritance to his children's children, but it's not always money. It's a spiritual inheritance which lets people know, lets your children's children know how to properly respond as a human being as it relates to dealing with the world and dealing with the Most High Yah. A proper response, right? The responsibility.
Yeah.
So if our children don't even see us as adults, they don't see us that we have older folks in a community that we are willing to say, listen, I'm having some difficulty here. Before I jump out the window, I'm going to talk to my counselor brothers or counselor, of sisters, if it's obviously women and things like that. Before we jump out the window, just go ahead and make something happen. But I heard something, last week, I was watching something, this woman, it was just like about coaching. It had nothing to really do with the scriptures, but it's good for right now, guys. So the understanding is that isolation is the dream killer, not attitude. And so I can parallel that to this, is that when we're trying to move as brothers and sisters just in isolation, it's easy, bro, to come up with your own cultic ideas, because there's like, was it Yeshua who said, do not forsake the assembly? Or was it Paul?
No,
or was it Shaul?
Paul.
Okay. Right. So Shaul's like, do not forsake the assembly. The reason why he's saying do not forsake the assembly is, one, there's strength in numbers, but two, it is extremely easy to have something inside of your doctrine that is not correct, not related to biblical foundation, and one man just looking at something will be like, no, that's it right there, you can be led astray. So you need the assembly.
And that's it, and that's correct. I mean, the assembly is important. I mean, community is one thing. Can we get it? Sister Kim me ask a question, and I'm going.
How do you prove that? How do you read that comment, because I'm having to go to other stuff.
Okay, I'm gonna read it in a bit. And that's what it is when it comes to the community. I think, since we met back in 2016.
I was gonna talk about that too. It's 2017. It was 2017.
We have been a community for each other. I mean, it's not the largest community, but we have been even with the distance. When we were pretty close at one point, you were in DC and I was further north.
I honestly think that we're probably closer with the location now than we were location wise than when you were in the north, and I was in DC.
I mean, I was actually quite a bit, just an hour and a half away from you, but
we're flying.
Flying, right? If I was to drive, it's probably about 8 to 10 hours.
Right.
But the community is important, as that point that you mentioned, as Shaul says, do not forsake the assembly, and we must respect it as well, because we cannot pretend that we know all things. And sometimes I have my, I've been having some issues at the household, and I could call up Brother Matt and say, hey, Brad, man, I'm facing with this situation, man. What's your feedback on that? And then generally you get not a hypocritical advice, but a righteous way, whether or not I'm off or what. Because if I'm off, I need my brother to say, you know what, brother, I think you might be off, or you might be over pressuring, or you can back off. That's where the community obviously is definitely, and it's an assembly, because it's always righteous to divine the word with the Most High. And going to Sister Kim's question, she was asking, how do you prove to a new woman? How do you prove? You think we're talking about men, right? Us being righteous, right? And how do you prove to be a true man of Yah? I'll leave the first one to you. I'll take the other one, Ak. How do you prove that to a new woman?
Okay, hold on. Hey, how do you prove that to a new woman? How do you prove what?
Yeah, what we're talking about earlier, like, being righteous men, being the men of the Most High. I think that's what she was saying when I was making my feedback on being righteous men, being a man with responsibility, being a man who know to take care of his household, being a man, Abraham knew that, so he gave his wife. He didn't just dish off his concubine, he gave them gifts and stuff and send them away so they could be well, and the children of the concubines, right? So she was asking, how do you prove that to a new woman of us being? But while you're reloading, how do you, I'll answer the second part. How do you prove to be a true man of Yah? While Brother Matt might come back.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back. No, I'll take the second one first, Ak, and then you can chew on the other one. If a woman understand the scriptures, I go to the scriptures to say a tree by its fruit. A tree by its fruit, because a corrupt tree cannot bear a good fruit, right?
Right.
A tree by its fruit, right? So if a man is of Yah, he doesn't need to write it on the chest, say, I'm a man of Yah. You would see the fruits of that man around. You know what I'm saying? And you, as a woman, you must have that impudent eye also. If you don't have a father or an elder or somebody that is going to vet that person for you, you must have that impudent eye. And I say this to sister, if you're going to marry, being a sister who doesn't have a covering, a father or elder over your big brother or uncle to guide you and to vet that person, you have to have that impudent eye to that man. You have to ask him the question. You have to see. You have to know and understand and see how it relates to, or even our paychecks. We don't have to do all the scriptures. We have to.
I think that
we can look at even our paychecks.
I think that that's the whole. I think that that's part of the process, right? Is to be able to have some brothers who you can trust to actually just be brothers and not try to, who can be brothers and again build that community back up. Like build the community back up. I was being raised back in the day, bro. I mean, just kind of coming up back in the day, I had homegirls. I had my group of guy friends and a group of girlfriends. Not like I was intimately involved with, and they were like my sisters. They would tell me the game. The girls were trying to play and would look out for me and all types of stuff. And it was honestly, it was really good because there's so much that I would miss trying to navigate, relationships. And obviously, I'm a youngster and these are uncodex relationships. But point is that if you don't have that group, it's difficult.
And to that point too, bro, that's why, even for the sisters as well. Even for the sisters as well, I encourage that there should be a group of women, even older women, who are in marriage for a long time, and these things, so they can even have someone to relate things to, right? To go back, just like how I could call you up. I mean, you're one of the few guys who I can probably pick up the phone and give a shout and say, hey, Matt, this is what this, what are your thoughts? Right? Because when I call you up to ask you, guy, the thing is not to talk to me and say, man, I love this brother, man. Even if he's wrong, I'm telling him that he's right. No, man, that's not what I want.
Right?
I can't disappoint him by telling him the truth. That's what I want, the truth, right? So sisters need that as well, the community, and that's why we try to encourage sisters to be as community. Kimmy, what if if a woman by herself? By yourself, woman by yourself? I don't understand that question, Sister Kim.
What if it's like a woman by herself? I think we just kind of talked about that. Who's a woman who doesn't immediately have like a woman in her, I just say in her 40s,
30s,
or 30s, 40s.
Right? It doesn't have a father, right. It doesn't have an elder. It's not a part of that community where somebody can say, hey, let me talk to this guy to see what he's about. I've known one of our elder brothers, he did that too, right? For a sister that was talking to a guy and she involved him and, he was telling her, hey, I don't think this is going to work. It's not going to work. Because when he vetted that guy, he realized that he wasn't of what he ought to be as a man looking to go into marriage, And, in the long and short of the things, it just never worked because I felt that too, based on communication. So if a woman by herself, she must have that impudent eye. And I encourage sisters because even myself talking to sisters and stuff, I mean, I encourage them. Yeah, you just gotta ask all the questions. You just can't be shy. You can't be I like him because he rides a RV or ATV, whatever. You can't be
Yeah.
like this tall, dark, and handsome. That don't cut it. If you have to look, if you don't get to, if you're not around him enough, if you met him in a medium like online or stuff, if you're not around him as yet to know his community, but don't be, these are life changing decisions, and you want to know when because a woman's supposed to go into a relationship submitting to her husband, so a woman doesn't want to
Right.
go into a wicked man, a man with a reprobate mind and evil, abuser, drug abuser, physical abuser, and these things. Women don't want to go into that. So, you know, when you're doing certain jobs, if you're working for a certain arm of the government, they do some detailed background check on you. It's not even funny. Even when you're sleeping, they're checking.
Yeah. Background check.
And they're doing some
That's a good
background check.
point. Yeah.
You got to do your background check as a woman who doesn't have a man or a father figure or somebody to help you discover these. You have to do your background check. Don't the sweet talk.
Yeah.
Cut the sweet talk. I'm not a sweet talker anymore, I guess. I guess
What did you say? You're not a sweet talker?
I used to be a sweet talker, but I just know that this is what you get, man. This is what you get, sister. This is what it is. Man, you gotta come, you gotta put your hand to the wheels, you gotta work. We serve the most high, and we serve none other. We believe in the scriptures, from A to Z, from from beginning to end. So, this is what we got to believe in the book. So, and at the end of it, you will see the fruit of the man. You'll know you'll see how he treats his children, his woman.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying? Because
this is okay. So this is specifically a man who, because I think that's might not be understood, right? So a man who does that's a man who I guess has a family already. I think that wasn't necessarily implied already. That it's a man who has a family already, right? This is polygyny.
Yeah, if a man has a family already. And even if it's a man who doesn't have a wife, still do your background check. You gotta.
What are some good characteristics of a? What are some characteristics of a man? And see, here's because I just thought about again the problem with that.
I like that question you were going. Go ahead.
Okay, here's the problem with that is that how many men in the audience? Just being honest, some of us have been, with our wives or first wives or, first, second wives, first two wives or whatever like that for a little bit, right? Because on this show, we're pro-biblical marriage and things like that. So we don't want to exclude anybody. But if you took a snapshot of the majority of these men when we got married, bruh, how, I know for facts, I was a complete, I was on the road to becoming, a lot better, right? I was on the road and I've been on the road and I'm still on the road to continuous ascending, but it did not look the same, for how many years ago, when I had just gotten married for the first time in my life, it didn't look the same. So how do we know? Man, how do we know that's going to, what if that brother's still a little bit rough around the edges? How do we know that man, okay, this brother has the characteristics to continue moving forward. And we can know that, if, in about 5-10 years, he's going to be a lot more solid than he is right now. So go ahead and make that investment,
Yeah, well, obviously it's a man that chooses a woman, not the woman chooses a man, right? But in this day and time, because women are out by themselves, they have an option to say yeah or nay. Because they're out by themselves, out there in the world. So the man who chooses a woman. But when a woman is out there and doesn't have the father to vet for her, which is supposed to be, then if it's a brother who just looking to start a family, then she gotta know his plan. What's your game plan? She gotta see things of action. Because one of the things that I see in my experience biblically is that a man must have inheritance, right? I mean, don't tell me you're gonna take this woman and you're gonna think of going to mama's house, man, and have your kids there, man. A man, because that is a sign of, listen, you're not ready for marriage. Because if you don't have somewhere to put, my mom used to say when we were kids growing up, man, you gotta learn you gotta look somewhere to put your woman first. I don't want to say the
Right.
rest, right? But you gotta
Right.
first learn to put her before certain things. You gotta learn to find a place because
I mean, we
they,
keep it 100%, man.
yeah,
Keep it
because we,
100%. You got to look for somewhere to put your woman before you put your thing in that woman.
yeah, you get
Let's
what I'm
just be
saying, right?
100%. Yeah.
Because at the end of it, a woman looking at a man who doesn't have a family yet or is looking to a family, she can understand his roadmap and plan. She can see the vision by physically him showing her, not to be, oh, he's talking about it because talk is cheap. You gotta see it. You gotta see it down. Yeah, my vision is to have this in the next 5 years. But what are you putting in place? The worldly artist Kenny Rogers said, "Don't fall in love with a dreamer." Because he
Right.
continues to dream, right? But
Right.
you still have to have a vision. But what is your plan to
Right.
execute on this vision? Even if a man who doesn't have a family before and established, so the
That's
woman can be
difficult. That's
difficult.
difficult, brother,
All right,
because it's
all right.
difficult only because knowing that we have not been like there has not been even in the islands and in the states and everything like that. It's difficult because historically, I'm a student of history, ladies and gentlemen. Akeem and Akotim. I'm a student of history, and historically, two things. One, when men got married in the scriptures, right? When were getting married in the scriptures, everybody's in Israel, right? This is you have to know this from a historical place. So what happened is that the father of the bride would provide the husband with like the father of the bride would provide the husband with like a plot of land so that essentially the husband almost had some wealth to kind of start getting things going with. And we just
Wait,
don't
wait,
have that
wait, hold on.
nowadays.
Father of the bride. Let me understand that. Father of the bride.
Yeah.
Father of the What's that? What's that wrote again? Father of the bride. Who's
So
that again?
that's so you pay the bride. So the man got to pay the bride price and got to pay the dowry, if I'm not mistaken. Got to pay the bride price. The husband or the husband to be needs to pay the father's family the bride price and the dowry, and that is it's essentially the price of taking that daughter who's valuable out of that house and bring her into your house. But consequently, the
All
father
right.
of that to be married bride, would set up the young family with essentially some stuff to help his daughter out and to help that young man. And we don't see that though.
All right. I'm not.
So if we're talking about
The thing about that.
yeah,
Hold on. The thing about that is, I like to keep things pretty simple as possible because in terms of scripture, when I look at
right,
Father, let's look at the patriarchs. In that context, look at the patriarchs. That may exist obviously, but look at the patriarchs. Let's look at the patriarchs and how they got married. The
hmm
scriptures speak about Abraham. He took Sarah, right? Okay, let's go from
hmm
Sarah to Isaac, from Abraham to Isaac. Isaac sent his servant to find Rebecca. Rebecca, right? Yeah. Sent servant
yeah,
for Isaac what? And he gave them gifts when he found her and brought her to him. So they pay the dowry. They pay for that woman and she come over, right? Um, Now Isaac and Jacob, Jacob was sent away for a couple of reasons, but he also went for his wives because they didn't want to take him a wife from the daughters of Canaan. And he worked 14 years for his two women, right? And the years that he
well, here's
worked as a servant,
because I found something in the book of Yasha, but keep going though, because I wanted to touch on that.
they
So he worked, yeah,
they worked 14 years for the woman, and you could consider that the years that he worked for Levan was his payment and his service for those women as well. But we know that but Yah is when Yah was with Jacob from early in the beginning, and Isaac got the inheritance from his father because the servant told them anyways, hey, all that his father has is his belongings, and his father has much. So they know they were going with a guy that has inheritance, right? Um, just wanted to point that out in terms of what we see, because for my son looking to take a woman, it is very important that I set up the foundation for him, that he has a place, he has an inheritance, for such so for such a family, for such an undertaking to take on lives under him to take care of, not to say, hey, just go out there and and that's why we are doing the work now, I guess, because we could consider probably first generation awakening in the walk with the Most High. So to we consider ourselves in that first generation set, because our fathers and our mothers,
Right.
our fathers has not been walking, so we know as the children has been learning to walk this way. So in the sense of it, we have to have that provision when you decide to take a woman, and the sons need to have it, and the roadmap as well, because when a man doesn't, is in his father's house, when a man is in his father's house, a father should know, in a sense, what it is when his son is looking to take a woman, and it is where our responsibility comes in to have these things in place and to mark you, because we have been behind the eight ball. Many of our also may not have certain resources to say, son, here's an acre of land, here's a house, here's something, an asset. You have worked hard, you have feared the Most High, you have been with me, and you have not left my side, and you have worked with me all day. So when the time comes for you to marry, here is your asset and your inheritance. A lot of us don't have
Right.
that still, brother. We can't. A lot of us don't have it.
Yeah.
We have been behind the eight ball, and we have been struggling in this, in this land. I may move here in this land in the islands, but man, this is not we're just here, man. We're just trying to live according to the book, man. When you go into the land of our captivity, we marry, going to marriage, send our daughters into marriage and increase and don't decrease, man. Because you know, we know Jamaica is not the land of our fathers. We know who we got here. So, but in this kind of sense of family and marriages, you know, we're trying to restore as much as we can to the help of the Father for our sons and our daughters, and train them up, and train up my son and train up my daughter for them to know, and continue to train my wife for her to understand and to adjust where needed to be adjusted, and adjust, and myself as well, because we are the beginning of the house, right? So
Right.
it's important we put ourselves in certain order still. But the key, marriage is ordained by the Most High, and it's righteous for people to get married. Men and women. Let's put that in context, men and women, right? But it is righteous.
You got to put it in context today's time, man.
Yeah, it's righteous, and you are recognized and ordained the union. So, for me, training the children, man, it's no easy task. And for you, you know, and for us, because we are a community, I see you as a community, man. I see you as a part of my community. We're not how many miles you are away from me, because I may not be able to travel to your country right now. It's easier for you to come to me to us than we go to you, because we're not taking their job. Yeah,
Right.
we're not taking their job to travel. Not even in the country where I'm a resident, I'm not taking their job. So they can just relax and just know that there used to be a brother, Omar, from their country. We're just here in the hills and we are setting ourselves. If as the leads, we're just doing our thing, man.
Yeah.
So, but it's a restoration of the house, brother. And family and marriages, I do have some stuff. I was reading the book of Yasher as well, and you should be familiar with these scriptures. The book of Joshua, when Jacob took his wife in Joshua 29 and Joshua 31, Jacob, Leah, Rachel, Bilhah, and Zilpah, and those things, right?
Wait,
That
was it 29 or 31?
29 and 31, 29 Jacob and 31 again, and then the bush Joshua
This is
Abraham sent for Isaac wife and stuff, right? So in the book of Yasher, um, and you know, and there's a question I wrote down. There's a question I wrote down, and there's a question I wrote down is
well. Go ahead.
what is the concern why people are comfortable with a legal marriage? Why are they,
What
why
is
are
the
they
concern? Why people are comfortable?
with a legal marriage?
You got to break that question down for me.
Yeah, what? Yeah, just go. No, I mean like because people want legal marriages. People want to go in front of as I said, they want to go in front of a pastor and get his blessing, as they would say.
Yeah,
And when they call the marriage common law, as if they're calling Yah's righteous union common, and what Yah has ordained should not go. Because Yah told Peter that when he was on the rooftop, right? And then while he
yeah.
wasn't talking about marriage, Yah doesn't use anything, as you know, and you reminded me as well. Yah does not use anything that is unrighteous to represent his righteousness, right?
Hmm.
Because once he uses it to represent his righteousness, it is good. So
Right.
when they call it common law and all these things, right? People are saying, say a sister, where's your husband? I'm not married. But yes, you see with a man. Oh, you see the ring on my finger and stuff. So they are used to that construct because they prefer to have. Why is that they are comfortable with? That is what they prefer the way of marriage right now.
Why? Yeah. Why? I mean, I think that. So, not saying that I agree with it, but psychologically, what it is that human beings want to go with what the masses think. You know what I'm saying? It's dangerous to go against what the masses think. No, it really is, because when you go against the masses, that's not a part of human DNA. I ain't talking about elevated and you're thinking on a higher spiritual plane, but human DNA. Because 5,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago, if you went against the masses, if you went against your group, that was going against the tribe. So it was almost certain death because the strength was in numbers. So I think that that's still inside of the human, to want to go with the numbers versus saying, okay, wait a minute. Does this make sense? Right? Can I, and let's just talk about, because it's easy to just talk about the world, but let's just talk about men and women who are Kodesh, who are set apart. So many times, again, that's why people have a difficulty leaving out of the camps, because the camps provide that old mentality of being with a group, and people don't want to be outside of the group. Same way with church. People think that as a Christian, I was a Christian for a long time, and I found Yah as a Christian, but then, I found more truth, saying coming out of Christianity, right? Just doing homework and stuff like that. But I ostracized myself from the group. I separated from myself from the group. And it's real dangerous when you separate yourself from the group. It's really scary. And you have to really rely on the Most High. That's what I think it is, bro, is that people really don't want to rely on the Most High for real, all the way.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it happens to be, yeah.
I mean, and I face that even in my, with relatives and stuff, because at the end of it, I'm trying to reconnect back my spiritual umbilical cord back to the Most High, yeah. Train my family up, because, and I can't be, as I was saying to the family today, it's we're talking about love and all these things, and what it is. It's the love of the Father to keep His way, love that we have, right? We talk about a message that Yeshua mentioned: love thy neighbor as thyself. Love.
Yeah, we just talked about that today,
right?
Yeah, we just talked about that today. Yeah,
love thy neighbor as thyself. And I was saying to the family, we may focus on love thy neighbor as thyself, but what is loving myself? Because if we're not loving ourselves according to what the Yah giving us instruction, because that is our guideline, that is our guidepost, then we ought to love that neighbor like ourselves, because we are keeping Yah's way and we are seeking to keep His way. So if your neighbor is being wicked, you got to admonish, right?
Right.
You got to say no.
If you're being wicked, you'd want to be admonished by your neighbor.
Exactly. And that's what it is. And you have to admonish yourself if you're being wicked as well. Because if you're being wicked, you have to look in that mirror first and say, how do I love myself first before I know how to love my neighbor?
See, there goes that's the point. And I'll touch on that when you Yeah, go ahead,
Yeah,
continue.
and that's the thing about how we ought to be in terms of our restoration. Because I cannot be too. I tell them. I mean, while I still have love for my relatives and people, my order is to try to connect back to the Most High. And if it means that I
Right,
have to separate from them, then I have to separate, because it's not about you; it's about the Most High. You know,
right,
Yah is to be glorified, and sometimes we compromise a lot just to suit an audience, right? Just to suit an audience, and for me, when I'm learning, I'm trying to still have compassion, but not to the depth of my damnation, right?
right.
As I was talking about the 10 virgin earlier, and I use it in other scenarios. Not to my damnation, I will share my oil at that last minute act. You could be whatever it is. You go get your own now, because if I give you, I may not make it to the
Right.
marriage supper of the Lamb. The 5 wise knew they were wise, and the rock was upon them to know that they weren't looking at those sisters to say, "Hey, you're my sister. I'm going to share my oil." If they did that, all 10 would have been damned, and thus
Right.
it wouldn't have been 5 wise. So at a certain
That's a
time,
heavy. Yeah, that's heavy, man.
yeah, sometimes 7 ourselves. But even though we were there, because they slumber and slept together, but when the time comes, and you're on your own now, because it's the day of reckoning, and I need to meet the marriage supper of the Lamb. So I mean, we have to continue in righteous, rightfully dividing the word, a family where we can encourage it. Um, I'm not a supporter, because the scripture has not supported it, of any marriage officer, any pastor over marriage. Um, I respect marriage, but not in the way the world does it. Because if a man is seeking righteousness after your righteousness to be righteous, then he knows his responsibility. And he needs no man, because if you get divorced, you get 50% of the possession. You need that certificate, right? I'm like, okay, crap. I don't know that I need to take care of you. When I see what Abraham did, he gave his wives and the concubine, the children of the concubine, gifts, and send them away from his son
Right.
Isaac. He's righteous
Right.
because he's not going to leave them in chaos and know what's going on. He's like, you know what? And I get bet you, because Abraham had much. So,
Right.
by the restoration of righteousness for us men, I would love to see our brothers go back to. Because men are.
So
Go ahead.
no, no, I didn't want to cut you off, but I thought that you
Yeah,
were
I think I tune up. Go ahead.
ending right there. So in the book of Tobit, right?
Mm.
Because I was looking this up while you were talking, and I was looking this up, and just some preface. It was, just this one website, we're just talking about the reason why there's no marriage ceremonies in the Bible is because marriage did not involve a ceremony. Marriage in the Bible simply consists of a man and a woman with the consent of the woman's father or guardian living together and attempting procreation. Now this is a website or whatever like that. I don't know. But they talk about it says no vows, no priest, no ritual, no prayer, no pronouncement, no license, no registration. This is quite different from how we define and enact marriage today. Today, for a marriage to be quote unquote real, it must be legal. In other words, it must be recognized by the law of the state and registered with the state.
But
So
that's
it
not
just
true.
talks about,
Yeah, but that's not true. That
okay.
is just old wives' tale and soothsaying, man. That's not true. Because as what they
No,
call
it
the
said
common law.
it said to be legal, in the state that you're living in,
No,
because we're
common law
all living
is
in this.
legal.
Yeah, common law is legal, but that's
Yeah.
again that's a law that was enacted by that specific state. You know, so and essentially, common law marriage was for the state to be able to kind of keep tabs on people. To kind of keep tabs on people because you couldn't say, I mean, you almost can't live with people. Like, let's just say you're like, all right, we're not going to get married with the state, but I'm a man. I got, my 5 wives. I saw a brother, I don't even know. It might have been like 7 wives or something like that. They all cannot be like married down the line, what I'm saying, with the state or whatever like that.
Yeah, but
But
we were returning to the most. I have to reject the state. and go back to the Most High, yeah, in a righteous way. Because while we are in the world, we have to use what Yah give us in the world to move along. But when it comes to
Right.
marriage, I might always choose it. It can never be in terms of for because this is where the concern is, and is that when you make a man solemnize your marriage, you're taking you out of it. And this marriage was instituted by the Roman Catholic, and whatever the Roman Catholic institute, we must be very weary of it, right? And
Right.
then church
Yeah.
they got tie up this marriage, and church adopted what the church the state adopted what the church has done to say, okay, we're going to use what the church constitute marriages to make something legal. But that's not what Yah says, right?
Right.
Yah brought Eve to Adam, right? And we see all these things in scripture. So I cannot trump Yah's way for some modern day to say this is what we see marriage is now. Because Yahweh will always trump the way of man. And
Right.
that's why the foundation of marriage to me is what Yah has shown us through his set apart scriptures. Even if a person has to go get legally and get whatever, it is their own doing. But in terms of the true construct, my solemnization is mostly a rejection of the men who come and say, I pronounce you husband and wife, and we accept Abaya into my as the solemnizer of my marriage to come into it to make my marriage strong and build it stronger. Because without
Right.
Yah, marriage will definitely fail.
Right. Yeah. No. I mean, yeah. I mean, that's the whole thing is that without Yah, this marriage will fail. And it's funny because I don't know if this is still the statistic, but in the States, like as of like 2013, 2014, I only imagine it getting worse since that time. But right, only testing from about people who were about age 19 to age like 80 or something, with like only 50% of Americans were who had gotten married, had stayed married, got divorced. Now, even more interesting is that out of those people who got married who called themselves Christians, 50% of people self-proclaimed Christians had gotten divorced, and 70% of these divorces were were initiated by women.
But that is to expected because the enemy has come into fold like dew, and
Right,
it is definitely the scripture says it's a man put away a woman, right? So
right,
now the world and the enemy and the devil is using it strict to whoever to say the woman now putting away her man, and men have become not follower of the Most High, so we can't even, you know, I can't even have any remorse to say certain things is because when men play in the enemy battlefield, they will be subject to the enemy's laws and rules. So, I mean, us men, the divorce ratio. I mean, if we start to fear the Most High and do the right thing, then we start to build back our communities little by little. It may not be a mass, but we start to build it back little by little to love our wives in the right way. And while they may call it common law, we know that it is yeah marriage. You know, we take a woman and call her our bride and say you belong to us. You're part of our household now. I mean, and at the end of it, whether or not you take one, two, three, or four, right? You as a responsible man who fear Yah, and that's the thing, when you fear Yah, you do what is good to the Most High, according to the Most High,
right,
Yah. And if man is reckless with one woman, Yah judgment is swift, and I've seen it. We have seen too much things happening around us to fear Yah. I know that,
right,
man. Us men, let's just do right and just live right by the Most High, yeah, and stop thinking that okay, as the word says, oh yeah, the men are saying, yeah, has forgotten, he doesn't remember us and he doesn't remember this world or whatever. Yeah, says his judgment will start to come swiftly upon men. So let us be men of the Most High. Take care of our household well. Do what Yah says. Whatever um the guideline, the roadmap, the flow chart of success in marriage is Yah first, man, woman. You know what I'm saying? And live according
right,
to the righteous way. And reject idle words. Because we're not seeing these type of marriages in scriptures. And doesn't mean that we're going to it work either, because as you mentioned, the divorce ratio, what is initiated by women. I mean, you know, my parents, I mean, they got legally married late in their game. I guess they got late in their game when they are among all their children, and they've been together for like how long? I don't even know, man. I have to check my age. I don't even know my age, man. I can't even talk my age here, man.
Right.
But I tell you, but they have been together for so flipping long, man. Shakes. I don't even know how long. I have to ask my mom. Probably 6 or 7, 60 years. Who knows? 50 something years. Who knows?
Jeez,
How
man.
long they have been. So they have been, they have been together, and believe me, it's not. I don't. It is no marriage certificate which come late in the game when way after my youngest sister was born. Um, they
Right, but
decided to become legal, but they have been married
right.
and together, right?
The point was, I've known people to do that too. I've known it's about your intention. So I think that at the end of the day, a piece of paper going to the state doesn't ensure that your intentions are sound as it pertains to being married and walking this thing out with the word. But marriage is a business, bruh.
It's a
That's
business.
what it is. A business. It's not, like
and
it doesn't become, yeah.
It's commercialized. It's a business because you go to the church, so to speak, to get married, and when you
No, wait. Time out. Let me rephrase myself. It's a business, meaning that its purpose was like business. Like you did not have to necessarily like people can grow to love each other and like each other. We could see these still in many of I guess more traditional African relationships with some of our, even some of our Israelite Hebrew brothers and sisters over there. You don't have to, like, you can grow to love somebody, but the business of marriage was to essentially strengthen the family unit, create more children, that can walk and increase that tribe. That's the point of marriage. At its core base, we don't get all the way into this, are you gonna love me? I'm falling in love and falling out of love until the West, until European philosophy kind of enters into marriage. And for everybody watching this on the replay, or everybody watching this live right now, marriage, even in Roman culture and lifestyle, at the very beginnings of them adopting, the Hebrew Messianic lifestyle and, calling it or changing it up to becoming Christianity, according to history, the priests and all that type of stuff like that, priests were able to get married. Like you don't see that in the Catholic Church right now, but priests were able to get married and priests were able to have multiple wives, but that's something that they decided to do. They decided to change. And that's why, I really see that Catholicism is not a true biblical faith, I guess, because they can start changing things.
I'm going to the point where we talk about marriage because a pastor officiating over a marriage by the priest in Catholicism, we have to be very wary because these people brought this thing and it came in about, not too long ago, right? A few hundred years ago, the
Right.
act of marriage and certificate came in because we are the one that can put you together because we are ordained by the Father and they bring this into practice. And that's why when you see the
Right.
Catholics doing things and contrary to the Most High, because they said they don't get married, but they're having a lot of promiscuity with the nuns in the convent, as you see came out in the media.
Did it? I didn't even hear that. Like I know the Catholic priests.
Something on the CBC or one of
those. It makes sense, man. It makes right. sense. Like it makes sense.
The nuns or whatever, whatever. So you see what's going on. But at the end of it, it is to reject man ways and go back to Yah's righteous way. Marriage is a foundation, and Yah created. After Yah created the heavens and the earth and the trees, and when in Yah creation, He created the animals, male and female. And when He created the man, He created a woman after. So Yah initially showing that procreation is what he need and in righteousness and follow his way and live, right?
Right.
In all these time we keep seeing these things, I mean, men taking multiple wives in the scriptures, man taking one wife, man going into marriage, procreating, establishing the footprint, go he therefore multiply, right? And it's not a guidance to say sign this first before we can say you're able to go and do these things. And we have to learn, for me, it's going back to Yah's foundation. It is my foundation of how to save marriages and how to save the family. And if we
Right.
are not following the way of the Most High, whether certificate in or certificate out, it's heading for trouble. If it's not Yah who is the center of the household, so we can
Right.
rightfully divide and come back to the knowledge of the truth. You know?
So I wanted to talk about the one time in, I guess, in biblical writings, that you do see, I guess, it's not a ceremony, or that website. That website says the only quote unquote, it says the only quote ceremony that I can find in the Bible is Tobit chapter 7, verse 12 and 14. And if you have Tobit, then
When
pull
it
it
says
up.
what?
Tobit 7, verse 12 to 14. And it says this, verse 12 starts here. It says, Raguel agreed. Certainly I will, he said. I will give her to you just as the law of Moshe commands. Yah in heaven has arranged this marriage, so take her as your wife. From now on, you belong to each other. Sarah is yours today and forever. May Yahuwah of heaven keep both of you safe tonight. May he be merciful and kind to you. And so verse 13 says this is the quote unquote marriage ceremony. Then Raguel called his daughter. When she came in, he took her by the hand and gave her to Tobias with his blessing. Take her to be your wife according to the teachings in the law of Moshe. Take her safely with you and to your father's house. May the Elohim of heaven give you a happy life together. Raguel, and last one is verse 14 says, Raguel asked his wife to bring him a blank scroll so that he could write out a marriage contract. Edna brought him the scroll, and Raguel wrote out the agreement, saying that Sarah was given to Tobias according to the teachings in the law of Moshe. So that's apparently the only one that can be found, and that's in the book of Tobias.
Which verse was that?
There was Tobit chapter 7, verse 12 through 14, but specifically where it talks about the scroll is verse 14.
No, sometimes when you see these things in scriptures, we have to wonder, because we have to read the scripture that impotent as well with the rock, and to understand if men place things there just to suit their own way, because when it started line precept, it has to add up. And if we wasn't so, we wouldn't have rejected the name JC and would have rejected the name Jews, because we know those are the words that was whatever. So the scriptures search it to find the truth. And if he says if he first says that has brought you guys together, then why, according to the law of Moshe, why would he need a scroll to write some contract? And the law of Moshe didn't say that, write no marriage contract. So we have to try to see where, if there's any error in this writing, or where there's stumbling according to the way of the Most High, if it lines the scriptures, and that one I would take with a grain of salt of writing in a marriage contract. I would definitely take it with a grain of salt, because a lot of these people are tampered with the book, and we have to know, we have to see the precepts if they are actually lined up with precepts, yeah, we have to see these things, and it's important. I mean, what I see Tobit, the guy was doing was definitely just honoring the way of the Most High and handing over his daughter as fathers does, and we see it for we see it in a similar situation with Ruth. It's a similar situation in Ruth because there was a gathering, a festivity. It's not a marriage ceremony, but it's a similar situation in Ruth. We see a similar situation when Yeshua was at the wedding feast, right? Because it was a
Right.
feast after thing. Because a man supposed to give his daughter too. Because we see that from creation. Yah brought Eve to Adam, right?
Right.
We see that from creation, that this is how the structure goes. So a man handing over his daughter to marriage is right in the scriptures. Because we see the precept
Right.
upon precept. But when you see the smart contract thing, I would definitely look into it a bit deeper and to see if it line up because
I'm
the
just, man, listen, I'm just bringing it up because it is
right,
there and you asked, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, it is
so.
for people to do their homework, you know?
Yeah, rightfully so. Because I mean, when people think the marriage contracts and stuff. I mean, at the end of it, yeah, when you look at all that is happening, even apart from the first man and woman, there was none with Abraham and Sarah. There was none with Isaac and Rivka. There was none with Jacob and his wives.
Mm-hmm.
So, and these men are seated on the right hand of the Most High. The scripture tell us that.
Yeah, I mean,
So
that's a good, I mean, it's a good point. It's like, it's a good point because I don't see it in the scripture, like in our main, in some of those 66 books or in a lot of other stuff, so what somebody was usually given to, it was given, right? But
I mean, because written there,
yeah,
people, and that's why some of the thing, bro, is that our people tend to don't want to come out of Christianity and they have a harder hearing, right? And even though said
right,
it so, because they read in the book that says JC, and you could tell them say from now till next week, J is not there. There's no G, is J, whatever. There's that, but it's in the
right,
Bible. It's in the Bible. So it's in the Bible.
right,
Okay, fulfill
right,
it. But says that you keep a strong delusion for them to believe a lie because they won't believe the truth. You know what I'm saying? Because and many of our folks fall into that category and fall victim of that because it's in the Bible. They were called Christians. And all these jazz, right? When the men who followed Yeshua was not called Christians, right? And so they
mm-hmm.
see it in the Bible, so they just run with it because they don't let the Ruach guide them into the truth. They let men guide them into the truth. And so is marriages. Let's let the Ruach guide us into the truth of for marriage, to create a righteous union. So we can impart these upon our children, and so the children can continue. Because says, as one part of the book, he says the fathers must teach the children the way of the Most High, and the children teach their children. So it becomes that verbal history continue down for generations. So that's what we're trying to restore. And why we may
Right.
make some note like videos like these now because we have access to these things, or we might write some stuff in books and notes because we're utilizing what has created. We must start to train them back in the way that they should go, in the way that they should
Right.
grow up, right? So they don't depart from it when they get into older age, as much as they may kick and scream. I was talking to my daughter today, and I was like, hey, you have to have patience. You have to have patience. You have to be humble because many things you will hear us say and you might not like it or believe, but have patience because you're that young, you haven't seen yet. So patience, and
Man,
you're
good
these youth,
gracious.
right? So
Yeah.
it just comes with the territory of training and let them understand that be patient, love your parents, know that they are leading in the right direction because you see the fruit and you know that they are providing and you are giving them the access to provide. So stay focused and with patience and faith and trustworthiness and love and fear. And you know that when you get older you will come to understand. They'll come to understand, but they want to understand pretty early and sometimes they can't. But they have to grow up to first understand certain things, because with age comes certain level of wisdom, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once they seek the Most High in His righteousness, obviously. So, man, I mean, it's
I
always
don't know.
beautiful.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
Yeah.
always beautiful to talk about family. It's always beautiful to talk about these things because you know what? It is the foundation for a woman, for a child to come in the world. Well, there's different ways now to procreate. There's artificial insemination. There's all these things. There's petri dish. So no longer is really man going together with woman anymore. So a lot of things come into play, man. So there's, all those petri dish may come in and it's like, who's the father? And Maury, you might see Maury coming in because child born in this world and parents like, you don't have no father. What the heck is going on? And you were just born in a lab. I mean, like, what the heck is going on? Are we, subjecting ourselves to these foolishness? You know,
Hmm.
and but for us who are seeking and learning and trying to understand the way of the Most High must continue in the path, irrespective of who may like it, irrespective of which family matter may say you're drifting away from the tradition, right? Irrespective of they say, come back over, how can you leave this this brotherhood, this community of whatever religious concept and gone out into that way in the wilderness or by your own in that way, doing that. Come back over. We have to just reject. If
Right.
they are not speaking your truth, then we have to just to stay steadfast and be not dismayed in this time, man. I just see the dark is coming over on the land here on the homestead.
Yeah, man, it's getting dark over there, bro. We've been
Yeah, this
we've
is
been we've
country
been
living,
chatting
man.
for. That's it. That's it.
Yeah,
Like it's so much. It's good. Like the thing is that when it's just dark, there's no. It's like it sends signals to the body. It's proper that it's time to go to bed. Or start winding down, and it's time to go to bed. And I was
man.
watching
Let
a
me tell you,
documentary. Yeah, I was watching a documentary about like some animals and all the light pollution in this, like let's say like in like Indonesia, like a city in Indonesia, and how the animals don't know where and what to do because there's so many artificial lights out there. So it's messing up the ecosystem because they don't
man.
know like to go to bed.
Let me tell you something, man.
Yeah,
Let me show you something in the sky. Can you see this?
yeah,
You see that?
yeah. It's
What
bright.
is that?
That's the moon
The
or
moon.
okay, yeah,
Yeah, the moon, right? That's the moon, right?
yeah,
Let me tell you something. Living this lifestyle, man, in the country, man, it has brought me closer to the Most High in His creation and His
right,
righteousness. Man, I'm seeing things now that I never knew existed. I can watch a moon that I showed you there a few time ago with the crescent moon coming from one end. And by the time we reached there, see, it was half the other day, and now it's almost, you can see the moon. You can see the righteousness of the Most High, because the scripture
right,
says that the moon gives us a time and the seasons, right? Like from month to month, right? And you can see the
right.
moon literally changing act.
Yep,
In the country here, it's like you come so close to nature now. You're so into nature that you can actually see your works. You can, I mean, it's a side step for a little bit from from the family and marriages, but you can see your work, man. You can see the sun. I remember I was looking at the sun. I was like, man, I didn't know the sun shifted in the sky, man. You
right,
know, I didn't know the sun
yeah,
shifted. Like, let's say there's an axis going over all the time over, so what the so-called equator, right?
hmm,
I could actually see that the sun shifted in its rising and setting. Certain time of
yep.
year, it shifts because when I see it on my house where it sets, I could see it sets like in the winter months, in the before
Somewhere
spring.
different.
Yeah, it's when it starts like now in summer, it starts to go back over to where I saw it in the summertime. It's like you can really see our move and his creation just live in living colors, man. Here,
Right, and
by the
that's
heavens
so
open up,
important.
man. It is just a different. It's just a different. It's just different here. Living in the hills, man. You can see the stars, man. When stars, when you see the stars in the skies, man, it's like, oh my, it's so beautiful. The galaxy. It just. I mean, it just can make you just relax and meditate for hours if you desire to, man. Seriously,
Yeah,
man. It's wonderful to really see these things in its natural habitat. And growing up, they were there, but we weren't noticing these things. Now, seeking after the
right.
Most High, you want to draw closer to the Most High and understand things of the Most High and what He created and the servants that He sent forth for us. And man,
Right.
it's beautiful, man. I mean,
It's a
right now,
purpose.
yeah, the crickets are coming out. You can hear the bugs screaming. man, it's a kaleidoscope. It's man, it's a plethora of songs in this mountain, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
That's
I can't even
it's
know.
so peaceful.
Yeah, and you're in the
Nah,
city,
because
man.
I'm like I had to come. I had to come. Let me see. See, I don't even want to touch anything because the last time I touched something,
Yeah, don't touch it till we sign out, man.
yeah, I don't even want to touch anything because the last time I touched something, I'm out here acting like somebody's grandpa on here, like just clicking out and things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm just gonna leave it. But I mean, even this city it's a lot quieter. The only thing is that y'all get better service. You all get better service down there and in the hills, than we're getting service down where we are in North Carolina. And it's
yeah.
just, I mean, it's difficult. I don't want to have, I don't want to let the live stream, go off into that place, but it just gave me an understanding of, when you come out to the cities, I mean, when you come out of the cities, and maybe we can talk about that to another live, or maybe you can talk about that, by yourself on another live. But again, being able to take inventory of the skills that you have and continue learning more skills that are relevant to, just being out in the sticks, man. Where I live, it's a Shabbat, but literally, I live in some country folks, and so they were outside with their semi-automatics, like thunk, 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 just practicing. I guess for what I don't know, but they're definitely out there practicing. But it's so beneficial to know that, like, they're just practicing, like nobody's getting shot. When I
You know,
was, yeah,
yeah, no funny, man. And I mean, I know, we're wrapping up. I think we complete the thing about, marriage. But America is the only place with the Second Amendment.
right,
America is the only country with Second Amendment. There's none
right,
in Canada, there's none in the UK. I'm not, well, at least what I know. And people are jazzing about, our people at least, our people are jazzing about Second Amendment, man. The gun is not the savior, man. These people
it's
don't
not
understand. The gun is the savior, man. Yah is the savior. And if you don't have Yah, no matter what battalion you have, you cannot live. Because he can send an ant just to bite you and you die. You know what
that's
I'm
true.
saying? He can send a he can send a wasp just to sting you, man, and you fall down. So it is not the savior. Having the most high Yah with you is the savior. Peradventure that you may need a firearm or something, you know, in the time of war or something like that. So, it is because Yah has given you the provision to get it. But don't these men who are fighting about evil, they're moving, they're fighting against the Second Amendment. Man, trust me, yeah. Because these are Babylon system. You're saying you won't leave America. We talk, man. A lot of these people, they won't leave America. If they have to flee, they won't leave America. They'll go down because they love America and think it's the best country ever live. And they can get their
Right,
firearm, Second Amendment. Yeah, it's a savior. Yeah, it's a savior. And a lot of these people that I've seen, man, they talk about for firearm and gun, man, and they don't know what it's like to even shoot somebody. These
right,
men, you know, these men practicing range shooting with stuff over their heads. You think when people come to attack, you're gonna have earpods over their heads to stop the sound. Man, if you ever
definitely
get
not.
into firing a firearm, man, the people don't even get it, man. It take a
Yeah,
certain guts to kill people, it
yeah,
take a certain heart to really kill. You know what I'm saying?
right,
But
right,
we must trust in our Yah first, you know, and not think we must trust in any gun or any battalion, any bunker, because when the rich creating all these expensive bunker on the ground and think they can hide in the day of EMP or judgment, and they think they have a lot of food stores down there, they see that it's all worms in that when they open those cans. Because there's no way that Yah can reach them. They go up in the heavens or under the earth, Yah can reach them. So fear
yeah,
Yah, abide by his way, trust in him, and seek after his ways and none of the world others, through Yeshua HaMashiach and all these things. And, pray that he protects you in the time of trouble, your family. But if you have to have a firearm, man, I'm not against it, man. Because, I'm not against having your weapon, your sword, man. Why should I
yeah,
be? Sword. But at the end of it, let's not trust in the sword. Because if David did not use a sword to kill Goliath, And
He didn't. Yeah.
we see multiple times when our fathers were going into Canaan, they, even though they are their army, it was Yah who went before them and
Right.
weakened the hearts of the giants that were in Canaan and the son of
Right.
Anak. So when they come, they were like afraid of them, so they were easily destroyed because Yah fought
Right.
for them. So let's
Right.
Yah fight for us, man. So not wrong with getting your stuff too, man, where you are. You know what I'm saying? Because you're in a
Yeah.
state that matter, but at the end of it, you trust in Yah first, and then your weapon will be like a man coming with AK-47. You have a little 22 millimeter, and you can defeat him because it's not the weapon.
Right. It's
But
not
it's
the weapon. Yeah.
and Yah who's guiding that person. Because wisdom is not all have it and all see for it, man. Well, that's been awesome, man. You have
Yeah, man.
any any summarizing any final comments before
Uh,
we check out and get some stuff moving?
Summary is just a summary, I guess, that, I mean, this is just a topic, this is a topic going back to the marriage aspect. This is a topic, and I think that at the end of the day, I think that what we're saying is don't put so much stock in a marriage certificate. Marriage certificates, knowing the origin of them, at least in this country, in the United States, it's a lot for, kind of keep tabs on people and all types of stuff like that. And at the same token, I mean, if you are a man or you're a woman joining a family and you are, not the principal, or the senior wife, you're not going to be able to have that marriage certificate anyways. But it doesn't mean that you're not supposed to operate in the full functions, of the wife, or, just operating in the full functions of what you're operating, of what you said that you were going to do, just fulfilling your vow. And I think that that's just the sum up of it. The sum up of it is, I say, don't get married to the state, but at the same token, if you're going to get married to the state, I really can't tell somebody not to get married like with a piece of paper, because I don't know what people's business, what people want to do for business, bro. People do get married for business purposes. Even in this country, it's just like, look, like we're getting married pieces of paper because business wise, I want to be able to pass so on and so forth, or I want to take advantage of this, tax thing or whatever like that. And, it's real strategic. But I think that putting so much faith in, we're married and we got to get married, women like, you either gonna marry me or, or I'm leaving. And y'all done been living together relatively righteously, I'd say, for 15, 19 years. I think that that's foolishness. I think that it's foolishness to jeopardize a functioning relationship just because y'all don't have a piece of paper, or some family members who ain't married themselves and don't know what it requires to actually be in the job and in the function of day-to-day marriage, are telling y'all, oh, y'all ain't married because y'all don't got no piece of paper, you didn't go to a minister or some foolishness like that.
Yeah. This is what I ended with.
Yeah.
For married people already, especially for those coming into marriage, I encourage that they need to get proper marriage counseling. Not by no counselor, but by a righteous seeking the man of the Most High. Yeah. Our sister is going to a righteous Yah-fearing daughter who is already married. They need to understand what marriage is according to the Most High, to know what they're getting themselves into, because it's not the people that make the marriage. And they need proper marriage. Our men and our women need proper marriage counseling to understand, to know the roles and responsibilities of each in the house. So that is the basis of what we'll always fall back on when things get crap at the fan and things get chaotic in the house. We should be able to fall back on something. What do we fall on if we have any issues in the marriage? Are we doing our roles properly? Husband, are you performing your functions properly? Thus says the word, righteously. Daughters, are you performing your function properly? So even when you fall away, we should have a path to come back to the old path and say, this is what the foundation should be. Let's get back here so we can save marriages. Because too many times as a quit, people are quicker going to divorce court and getting divorced. Right? Because I really don't believe they know what the foundation is to go back and they weren't taught. So it is encouraging that our men and our women get retrained of what marriages in a set apart way, biblically, scripturally way, so we can have the foundation to build strong marriages and to go back to the righteous.
Yeah, I think that there is, at the very least of it, going back to what you were saying earlier about loving your neighbor. Yeah, I gave me that consciousness because I just made a post of this today on my Instagram page. Is at Bro Matit Yahoo, the same way as it looks here, but all one word. But it was love your neighbor as you love yourself, right? That's the second, instruction. Torah means instruction. That's the second instruction that's going to cover everything, right? You love Yah, you honor, you fear Yah, and then you love your neighbor as you love yourself. And the meat of it, brothers and sisters, is that we have to examine, do we actually love ourselves? Not have a arrogant, a pride about ourselves, but do we actually love ourselves? Do we actually say, yo, I love you in the mirror, or I love myself, and not like I'm getting puffed up, but do I love myself? Do I actually love myself? And then if I do love myself, then I need to extend that same love out to my neighbor. And that's what you have. But even higher than that is that if you don't love yourself, that's a clear indication that you do not love Yah. Because why? Yah made you, Yah made your neighbor. So you're supposed to love yourself because of what Yah made. And so the problem is that people don't actually truly love Yah the way that it's supposed to be. And that's why you're going to see divorces and people, because again, bro Omar and everybody, let's not say that when two people get together, both people have to say that we're agreeing to stay in this. And that's an everyday thing. Everybody, every day you have to agree and wake up and say, I'm going to be married. That's the truth about it. It's not a one day, this is our wedding day. And then,
man, some days you can imagine you might get up and say, man, I want to just run from this marriage.
I want to just run away.
Man.
And you have to
the strength of that is in you, your commitment, right? So that
right.
We got sometimes, but because that's why I'm thankful that the Most High has brought our also in a certain order, and we're becoming stronger as a family, and
right.
it's definitely moving, right? It's definitely moving, but I mean, at the end of it, man, what you were just saying, and getting back into the order and the function, man. The loving yourself is loving Yah. I know what Yah requires, because it's all about the glory Yah to be glorified. So if we love ourselves, it's to love what Yah says, to keep His way, and and then in the marriage is the same thing. Marriage is just marriage is very, very, very significant. So we should continue to train ourselves, brethren, in the community. If Yah leads, get expanded. More brethren can come in, more sisters can come in, brethren, sisters can fellowship, so they can help each other. Iron sharpen iron, and I think we're lacking that still. So, peradventure, hear our cry, as we have been talking about for the past few years, that community can, because we have been talking about community for a long time. Yah may see certain things fit to do, or according to His righteousness. Is in His hands, and if He sees fit for us, then let it be. But a community is definitely a good thing for brethren and sisters to be able to help and strengthen each other and to grow, because we don't know all things, man. I don't know all things. Sometimes I have an issue and I don't even know the answer for it, man. Sometimes like, what is the answer? I don't know what to do here. And that's where brothers will come to help strengthen and to say, probably you could do this or do that, or and sisters have that function as well. So let you have a praise, man. Hey, man, I think we should kick it, because gotta get a few things done. It's still bright out where you are, man. You can't even see behind me no more, man.
Yeah, I know, man. It's dark. It's dark over there. I mean, the sun's definitely going down here, but it's summertime.
I mean, I mean, probably in where I was, yeah, because it's not down yet in your end, eh?
Not
That you guys are.
not yet. Let me see. Can you see that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's still pretty light outside. I mean, it's still
Oh,
pretty
probably.
light, you know.
Yeah, probably even Canada, Toronto is probably still bright as well. I forgot that you guys are in the north where the sun goes down at 8, 9 o'clock.
Yeah, in the
Yeah, I forgot.
summertime, yeah, you
I
know.
mean, I remember when my mom came and she was like in the summer, and she panicked because normally my mom was like 7 o'clock, no 8
Yeah.
o'clock, and when she's there, she's up till 9, and she sees the sun. She's like, "It's almost," and I'm not in my bed. She's like, "Crap, when it's not here, the sun is still out at 9." All right, and
All
she
right.
panicked. She just never ever see sun out at 8, 9 o'clock, you know,
Yeah.
and she
Sun just
panicked and
hanging
she,
out.
yeah, because she normally would be sleeping, you know. But that's what it does for North, man. I don't know why is it so, but let you have a praise, man. Man, I think it has been a beautiful fellowship. So, let the Ruach continue to lead and guide us in all things. And, if he leads again, we might do this again soon as we continue to afflict our beings according to the way of the Most High through his Son Yeshua Mashiach for his righteousness' sake. So let you have a praise, man. Stay safe. Shalom. Um, keep safe out there, man.
Shalom.
Safe travel back home, man. Back to the family and back to little Jonathan, man. So let you have a praise. Continue to grow them up and train yourself up in the Most High way. Stay safe.
And
Shalom, Ak.
and everybody, if you're watching this on a replay, make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe to Kodesh Garden Homestead. No?
It's not something that I do. I've never
Oh.
announced that on this channel.
Well, you got to
Yeah,
because people, people need that. It's a part of how this platform operates.
Yeah, but I don't even.
And they have to just be reminded.
I don't subtract. I don't even remind people that because that is not my play. To even do none of that. Because at the end of it, who want to do and who don't, man.
Right.
If you know it's to watch my videos, you don't even hear any of that. You don't even see it in any of my uploads about this. If you want to
Okay, well, edit that part out then.
Man, this is live, man. But let you have a praise, man. It's coming from you, man. But not through me, man. Peace and love, brother. Stay safe.
Shalom, love, bro. Blessings. Shalom. Peace.
Shalom.